that was exciting. I'm a little tired now. Hey, welcome everybody to the channel. After what, a 3 or 4 week wait, actually maybe a 6 year wait, Remarkable has finally replaced the Remarkable 2, and its successor is now the Remarkable Paper Pure. So in this video, we're going to dig into it together. I have not turned it on yet. You just saw the unboxing. I'm literally recording this right after the unboxing. So let's discover it together. All right, so let's start off by taking a look at the pen. I showed you that in the unboxing, but I will say that you can get two different pen options for this, or stylus options. This is the Marker Plus, and it comes with the eraser. If you buy just the base device without the folio, without the Marker Plus, you get just the standard marker that does not have the eraser, and that's for $3.99. For $4.49, just $50 more, you get that nice folio, and you also get the Marker Plus that has the eraser on the back side of it. So in my mind, that's kind of a no-brainer. That's a good value for the money. So let's go ahead and take a look at the device itself. I have turned it on, but I have not set it up. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we've got. We do have this wide bezel on the left-hand side. I like that because, it gives you a place to hold the device. It's asymmetrical. That is nice in my opinion. And for me, who's a left-hander, I like to rotate it and then be able to write like this, so I'm not activating the screen or inadvertently activating menus or confusing the system at all. So when we look around the edges of the device, on the top side we've got the power button on the top left, and you'll see that kind of grooves that's in there. I think that is to mimic a stack of papers. When you look on the right side, that groove of that stack of papers emulation stops because that's where the pen attaches, and it's kind of a flat surface there. It mates up with a flat surface on the side of the pen, and as you can see from the unboxing, that's a very strong connection that it has. Once the connection to the pen ends, you go back to that design language with the stack of papers, and then when we get to the bottom, on the bottom left-hand side, if you were holding the device facing you like you're writing on it, this is the USB-C port on that side. On the back, you'll see that we have, let me show you real quick, the Remarkable logo is nicely embossed on that. It's very understated. It doesn't stand out a whole lot, but it is reflective where the rest of the device is not. We do have a plastic cover on the back. Some people will say, hey, we have regressed since Remarkable 2. It's not as premium as Remarkable 2, but they had to make some changes to comply with EU upcoming standards that says the battery must be replaceable in devices like this. So they have put 10 screws on the back of this device where you can take it off and you can replace that battery. And I think that spells a lot of good news for repairability. If there are other things that needed to be replaced, you're not in there trying to crack this thing open, breaking glue seals and all that other stuff. And you may still have to do that to some degree to get this open, but it certainly is more repairable as that goes. This also has kind of the rubberized feet on all four corners to keep it from slipping. And it's just a good overall feel. This is very light feeling. I'll bring in the Remarkable 2. I want to compare the two. It definitely is lighter than the Remarkable 2. I will put the official weight of each one of these devices on the screen so that you can see that, but it certainly is lighter than the Remarkable 2. Now, it's fair to say that the Remarkable 2 was made of, I think, aluminum, where this is plastic, so, it is fair to say that that would be lighter because of that. For those that may think, hey, it's made of plastic, it's cheaper, it's not as, premium quality, let me remind you that probably one of the most popular devices out there in the e-ink world is the SUPERNOTE Manta. All plastic, front, back, everything, screen, everything's plastic, and it's a very premium device. So I don't fault this at all for following that lead. All right, we're going to go ahead and set this thing up. The first thing that it asks you to do is connect to a Wi-Fi network. So I've already put my Wi-Fi password in there, and we'll let this connect. Let's go ahead and hit next. Attach your marker. Your marker is charging now that it's awake. Keep it attached for the rest of the setup. We'll go ahead and do that. Did you see that? Let's refresh again. It's letting you know that your display will occasionally flash when it refreshes. Now it's going to install the latest update. Let's see if it does have an update here. It says it could take a few minutes. I am going to go ahead and pause the video while this updates. All right, that didn't take long at all. Maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, I think at most. Might not even have been that long. So now it's telling me that my paper tablet is starting. Setup process on Remarkable, especially if you've had one before, is very easy because it's just going to move all your files from like your previous one. Like I've got several Remarkable 2, Remarkable Paper Pro Move, and it's just going to bring all those files over and sync it up very quickly. So our latest version is 3.27.2.2. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to pair the device. It says I can get a verification code at my.remarkable.com/pair. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on screen here. All right, it's going to ask me to log in. All right, and then it gives me a pairing code that I would just type in here. And it's going to go ahead and pair the device to my account with Remarkable. And that's going to go ahead and bring over all the files that I've got. I think I've got over 1,000 files, or at least close to 1,000 files on here. So I'm going to go ahead and set a passcode. I'll be right back. All right, I did set my passcode and it gives me a recovery code, which I never use. I'm going to say that I'm a left-hander. Let's hit next. It says I'm good to go. So this is going to tell me about new features. So we're not going to do that right now. I'm going to go ahead and click Get Started. And you can see that I've got 1,039 files on my Remarkable. I am a Remarkable user. I do something on my Remarkable just about daily. I specifically use it for journaling. I use it a lot for other types of notes, personal notes, and sometimes I carry it to work with me and use it there. I really love the Remarkable platform. The Remarkable Paper Pro has been my favorite for a long time. Go back and watch any of my videos, and you'll see that it's one of the devices that I said that if I were to lose my Remarkable Paper Pro, I would be ordering one immediately to replace that. So we're going to go ahead and let this sync up. It's going to take a little while. It's doing it very quickly, actually. Okay, all of my files are loaded, and one pop-up screen I didn't show you, but it was walking you through handwriting search, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do that now because I did want you to go ahead and try that out. Now, handwriting search is behind a paywall. It costs $3.99 a month to subscribe to the Connect service, which gives you a few extra features here. You get not only the handwriting search, but you get a ton of different professionally developed templates that are curated for the Remarkable and the Remarkable Paper Pro Move. Those are two different size devices. So, I don't have any problem with the subscription. When I used to write on an iPad, I paid for GoodNotes, I paid for Notability. And, if it's going to continue to, help a company like Remarkable to remain, profitable, I want them to remain profitable because I want to use these devices for a very long time. And as you saw, the Remarkable 2 we had for 6 years before it was discontinued. The devices for this company and a couple of other companies out there are very long lived. So, I want this to be a long lived device, and I like the features that they give me. I use a lot of the templates, as you'd probably see if I were to scroll through here. I got the 2026 to-dos, and I keep all my other templates under PDF templates here as well. So I don't balk at that price. I know some do, and that's fine. You don't want to do that. And your notes only sync up to 50 days without that subscription, and they sync forever with that subscription. So it's something that I'll pay for. Let me show you the handwriting search on this device. So this subscription gets you lightning fast handwriting search. And what I mean by lightning fast, when you search for something on a BOOX device, it takes minutes to be able to find that word that you're going to type in. When you search it on a SUPERNOTE, it's faster on a SUPERNOTE, but it's still not anywhere close to what you're going to get on this. This is just super duper lightning fast. So I'm going to search for my wife's name, which is Candy. That's her nickname, but she's had it all her life. And it shows up a bunch of time in my journals. I am just going to come and scan and just find something here, and hopefully I don't pick something that's going to be incriminating or get me in trouble with her, because she will watch this video. All right, so her name came up here. It looks like we were cleaning, trimming hedges, and went out to eat that night or whatever. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for that. But this is my daily journal template that I have. It shows me that there was 1 of 1 search results in this particular document that I was searching, and I'll close that and show you what it looks like. My journals are available on Etsy. This is a perpetual journal where you just select the month and the day, and it takes you to that, and you fill in what day that fell on, the year that you're working on, and where you were at. So you got kind of a grounding of where was I at when I was writing this. And then, of course, next year I can do also on the same date, it may be Sunday, and 2026 or whatever. This was last year. But this is not an advertisement. This is a unboxing and first impressions of the Remarkable Paper Pure. But you see how fast that handwriting search was? It was, I literally typed in her name, and I'll type in something else. I'll just type in maybe somebody that works for me on my team, his name Radcliffe. And as you see, as I'm typing the letters, it's finding the results here. And it's not just in, let me show you, it's not just in titles of documents. As I type this, it is finding the actual handwriting. So I have filtered this to handwriting now, and I'm going to show you that Radcliffe is showing up in all of these documents. And I can go to them immediately and find that. So you do not get that fast of a search with other devices. All right, one of the first things that I wanted to do when I got this device, it's called the Remarkable Paper Pure. I don't know if that's because it just gives you a pure writing experience, or if it's because the screen whiteness. I thought about it pure white. Of course, it's not absolutely pure white. That's crazy to think of on an e-ink device, but I did want to use my, I guess, my tool here. It is a whiteness meter, so it does, compare things to pure white. You do calibrate this thing. It gives you a whiteness sample with a sort of specific number on there. You calibrate this device to that, and then you calibrate it to pure black, and then it is able to tell you the whiteness of a surface that you're measuring. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to do, when I did my whiteness test video, you can go back and find that in my on my channel history, and you can see all the different devices that I tested this on. One of the things that I'm going to do different today, I did not do the Remarkable 2 back then. I'm going to do the Remarkable 2 and the Paper Pure together. I'm going to test the whiteness, and then I'm going to test the blackness, and then I'm going to give a variance between those, and I'm going to call that the contrast. So I apologize in advance to Voya. He has his display analysis framework. Mine is probably just some kind of David's abstract framework that I'm not a scientist, so I apologize. This is simply just going to be a whiteness meter that's going to tell me the difference between the whiteness and the blackness on the screen and give me some kind of a gap between those. And I'll go back and I'll do that on all the devices that I did previously and put that into that spreadsheet and show it on an upcoming video. But let's go ahead and do that test. All right, so as a reminder, here's what that whiteness test looked like. I did 19 different devices. The color devices, of course, ended up on the bottom. They were less, I guess, white, and then the black and white devices ended up on the top. VIWOODS AI Paper ended up number 1. Penstar eNote 2 ended up number 2, and iFlytek AI Note 2 was number 3. And you can see where they landed in there, but I did not do the Remarkable 2. So I'm going to rectify that here today. I'm going to go ahead and do these tests, and I will enter it into the spreadsheet so that we can talk about it on the video. All right, so here's the results of David's non-scientific, not a scientist poll. So let me show you where they fall in. So the Remarkable Paper Pure came in at 36.76, was the average of the 5 I did: top left, top right, middle, and bottom left and bottom right. Measured the whiteness on each one of those marks on the device. So it came in the number 4 spot behind the 3 that I mentioned earlier in the video. So the Remarkable Paper Pure is pretty close to those top devices, especially the iFlytek AI Note 2 and the Penstar eNote 2. Now the looks like the VIWOODS paper, or VIWOODS AI paper, is a little bit of a stretch ahead of the other ones, a full 104 basis points ahead of the Penstar eNote 2. Remarkable 2, surprisingly, came in right behind it at 35.90 and ahead of all the other devices that you see on there. Some pretty big names down here as well. So these are the only 2 devices that I've done a blackness test as well. So 0 is the calibration on the device that is pure black. So anything above 0 is going to register that it's not exactly pure black. So the Remarkable Paper Pure is showing a 2.52 average black reading. The Remarkable 2 is showing a 3.7 average black reading. So the contrast difference, 34.26 difference between the white and the black numbers. on the Remarkable Pure and 32.3 on the Remarkable 2. So not quite the 20%. Of course, I'm not measuring this like, you would do it scientifically, but not quite the 20% that they advertise. But, they do say that the Remarkable Paper Pure is 20% higher contrast than Remarkable 2. And it may be that. It's just that this particular test that I'm doing doesn't show it. All right, as I always say on these videos, you get so far into the video, we're 17 minutes in. We haven't written on the dang thing yet. So, if I were watching this video, I would be complaining and saying, just write on the daggum thing and let's figure out how it feels. So this will be my very first time writing on it, no joke. So this is going to just say, this is a writing test. All right, so So what are my first impressions of the writing feel? So let me see if I can give this to you. They're different. The Remarkable 2 has a little bit more of a uh, resistant feel to it, I guess you'd say. It's that classic EMR pen on a really good screen. When you get over to the Remarkable Paper Pure, it does have a little bit of that resemblance of the Remarkable Paper Pro, with the exception that you get a little bit more of a scratchier, a little bit more of a resistant feel on that. The screen is harder on the Remarkable Paper Pure than it is on the Remarkable 2. So I would give the writing feel on the Remarkable Paper Pure, I gave it an 8.5. But I went back over to the Remarkable 2 and I was trying to score it that I think it was better or worse. I also gave it an 8.5. It's just different. It's not the same. I don't think anybody, unless you don't want unless you don't want a harder surface to write on, you wouldn't probably be disappointed in this. If you've tried a Remarkable Paper Pro and you didn't like it, you probably won't like this. But I would say I tend to like it a little bit better because I do think that the Remarkable Paper Pro is one of my preferred writing devices or writing feel on a device. So I'm tending to lean towards that, but I'm going to rank them the same score. It's just different feel to it. So you really need to try one out. If you're in the US and you can get into a Best Buy and they've got it on display, it's worth going to check it out, especially if you own a Remarkable 2 and you are thinking about moving. However, 8.5 on both of them. I think that the writing is exceptional and I do like it. A couple of other things to note about it is that of course, the tips are different on the pen. You've got one that's an EMR, you've got another one that's the active stylus. So the tips are different as well. So it's probably not just the screen, it's the pen tip as well. And then something to note, I am not a writing purist. I know that there's other folks out there. If you've watched Kit Betts Masters, he's an artist, so he's very particular about his pens and the pen strokes and how that works out for him. I'm not so much concerned about that. I just want it to write. I want it to look like my handwriting, and I think it does. So take that into consideration. And if you're an artist and if you are a pen purist, take that into consideration and go check out Kit Best Masters and his reviews of the Remarkable Paper Pure. So just a couple of other things to look at. By the way, here's the Remarkable 2 and the Remarkable Paper Pure side by side. You can see the size difference on here. The Remarkable 2 is taller. It's got the chin on the bottom here where they've moved that to the side of the device over here. Let's see what that did to width. It is almost the exact same width. I can tell that the Pure is a little bit wider, but not much at all. So one of the things that I wanted to check out is I have these PDF workbooks that they're notes books that I produce for myself, and I sell them on Etsy as well. But I've got this one that is 5,483 pages. So I wanted to open these on both devices and see how long it takes to open these. So significantly faster on the Remarkable Paper Pure. So that's kind of what I expected based on the upgraded internals. So let's also look at page turns. Just to let you know, this is going to be, it's going to be a blank page after this, but I wanted to swipe both and see how long it takes. And you can see the Remarkable Paper Pure is much faster on that. So that's encouraging. One of the things, a couple of things that discouraged me from using the Remarkable 2 was the speed of the device. Sometimes it felt a little sluggish, and it is a 6-year-old device. Also, opening some of these documents felt sluggish. Another thing is it only had eight gigabyte of RAM or 8 GB of storage in there, and I filled that up several times, and I had to go in and delete. Of course, dump my recycle bin. I had to go take some things off because I practice or I build a lot of these PDF workbooks and I send them to the Remarkable to test. It's my testing platform. If it will work here, it'll work anywhere basically, and it works really well in the Remarkable, by the way. But I fill up that 8 GB pretty quickly, and I had to manage my memory here. Now that this has 32 gigabytes of memory, I don't, and I keep saying memory, it's storage, but I'm not really that worried about it anymore. So that's, 4 times. Is that what that comes out to be? I'm trying to do math while I'm recording a video, and I have trouble doing math when I'm not recording a video. So anyway, the extra storage is welcomed here. So anyway, that's my unboxing and first looks at the Remarkable Paper Pure. I just got it in. You lived through the unboxing, lived through the first impressions with me. What do you think about it? I know that there's a lot of people that are excited about getting theirs in and trying it out. Already beginning to see some reports on Reddit of people getting their device and they've been really impressed with it. I do hear that, it's only 226 PPI. Is that big of a deal? The old Remarkable 2 is also 226 PPI. I think the Remarkable Paper Pro is 229. And if I'm remembering correctly, the Remarkable Paper Pro Move is like 264 PPI. So none of these are the 300 PPI that you find on some of the latest devices, with a Carta 1300, which this does have Carta 1300 just at a lower resolution. I don't know if that's going to make that big of a difference to me. I haven't been able to tell a difference so far, but I also haven't spent much time with the device. So I will do some follow-up videos on this as I always do, and I'll give you my further impressions after I get a chance to use this, take it to work, make it my daily driver, and I'll come back and I'll make another video. Anyway, would love to hear your impressions. What do you think? Are you going to get one? Are you going to wait? You're going to hold off? Are you going to keep your Remarkable 2? Are you going to keep your Remarkable Paper Pro? Or are you just going to stay away from Remarkable completely? Would love to hear what your plans are, or are you just curious about it? Anyway, I thank you so much for watching. I thank you for hanging with me, and I will see you in the next video.